What's up, everyone? Welcome to KMS Reloaded. Yet again, another Kirkman podcast wrap-up show. I am your host, Steve Smith. Hopefully, for my sake, this wrap-up show sticks, but we'll see how it goes. Big week for the Kirkman show. Rough and Rowdy 18 last week. I'm sure all of you already know the results and everything already, so we'll do a quick recap of that. But before we do that, I'd like to talk a little bit about Chris Clemmer. Chris Clemmer did not show up. I figured he'd at least be able to read the room well enough to know that he probably should have been there. Talk about a major fucking mistake. I mean, talk about an absolute dud since he's been off the show. Literally hasn't contributed anything. The Barstool Idol thing was just a piss poor performance. I'm just shocked that he just didn't show up. Then again, maybe I shouldn't be. It is Chris Clemmer. You know, the guy was on the Kirk Minahan show for months, and outside of some stupid fucking games, never brought anything to the show. Again, with Kirk, it's like drawing blood from a stone. The shit that he gets out of all these guys, it's amazing. That's why he's the best at what he does. When you see someone like Clemmer, who just is an absolute zero now, and at least before he was something on Kirk Minahan's show. In a lot of ways, I have to thank Chris Clemmer because his just lack of drive, his lack of effort, really having something that I've always wanted, it kind of motivated me to do something stupid like this. The idea that he would look at anything after what he did on that show as a step up. It's indicative of someone who's never had a full-time job before, who's never worked hard at something. The idea that Kirk Minahan is a mean boss is just, it's stupid. I spent the last 15 years working in the medical field. And outside of wishing death upon me, there is not one fucking thing that Kirk has said to his employees that hasn't been said to me by somebody. So when you hear even Justin kind of whine about some of that, and Justin's a little bit in a different place because he has a bunch of other mental issues, insecurities and stuff. Those two guys are such a huge motivation for me. Their failures have been such a motivation for me. Thank you, guys. Go fuck yourselves. Not you, Justin, you're all right. For those of you that don't remember, last week, or 2 weeks ago, when that whole Chris Clemmer, Alex Bennett, a trivia show debacle went down, Rico had the info for like a day, and he didn't tell the Godfather. He didn't tell the boss man. Bad move, Rico. Bad move. He also, the same episode that Kirk was on the Dave Portnoy show, he actually had a really meek and meager performance. He was trying to, like, I don't know, sell Dave, like, the ideas and some of the bets he was doing for, like, baseball and stuff. Like, he was talking about which pitchers he liked. And Dave Portnoy was just not having it. I tried to figure out how to get clips for you guys. I'm still trying to figure that out, so I don't have to explain it to you, but yeah, if you get a chance, really listen to Rico's performance. It was really mediocre at best. One of the things that I had to say to Rico, and I shouldn't say this because I'm not a made man and he is, you ever do anything like that again to the fucking boss of the family? You ever disrespect him like that again? And then you come in to see him, you come in, oh, hey Kirk, what's going on? You fucking come in heavy, or you don't come in at all. That's what I gotta say to Rico Bosco. So let's get to my favorite part of Rough and Rowdy. I wish I had a Trump voice. Unfortunately, I don't, but horny Dave Cullinane. My God. I have so much respect for this guy after his performance last week. To abandon his wife and his children, absolutely magnificent work, Dave. Congratulations. One time, and this will tell you a lot about Dave Cullinane. A few months ago, I was going through some relationship issues, and I really wasn't feeling good about myself. So I reached out to Kirk Minahan's show. I sent him a DM, and Dave responded. I was hoping to get Kirk, but whatever, you know, Dave responded. And I told him my story, and he was really good about it. But he said something to me that always stuck with me. He said, when it comes to women, just remember the 5 F's. You find them, you French them, you finger them, you fuck them, and you forget them. And when, you know, to hear that from Dave Cullinane, married man with kids, I was appalled. But it always stuck with me. And then last week, when he abandoned his family, Kirk was doing one of the shows with him. I think it was the show at the radio station. Kirk asked him a question. He's like, did you jerk off in your hotel room? Cullinane was like, oh, yeah, just some random Pornhub video. Well, bear with me here, but I got a theory. And this may be crazy. Maybe I'm completely off base. We all know, based upon that conversation, that Dave Cullinane does not clean up after he masturbates. Now, we'll dig a little bit deeper into that on Kirk's side of the thing in a minute. He most likely went to this is Dave Cullinane, went to his hotel room, and you know he's been masturbating to Cupcake's photos and videos all week leading up to the fight. He most likely was jerking off before he went to go see her, which is fine, I guess, but when you know that he doesn't clean up, is it outside the realm of possibility that Dave Cullinane was masturbating and then going to meet and shake hands with Cupcake and her family, the same hand that he was touching himself to? I don't know that for sure, but I think it's a strong possibility. You know, he said he spent the day with her, which is hilarious. To blow off your wife and kids to spend the day with Cupcake. As much as you want to judge Dave for this, I think he's kind of a victim in a weird way. Dave thought he was jerking off to a winner. I mean, that's just it, plain and simple. And you could see just how devastated he was after she lost. I mean, you heard him on the show, the emergency show. He was just lost. He was jerking off to a loser, and that's not fair to Dave. He deserves better than that. But yeah, Dave's a fucking savage. Dave Cullinane, I give him all the props in the world. Dave Cullinane is a fucking savage. He abandoned his children, masturbated to a professional fighter, and then literally smeared it all over her hands when they shook hands. Dave, you're a savage. When they were talking about Dave's little escapades in his hotel room, Kirk asked Dave Cullinane if he showered after he masturbated, which is a really bizarre fucking question to ask somebody. I know Kirk, when he was back in the day, he used to talk about how the strange ways he would do it. Like, he would get himself erect and he would flip it into his shirt, make it go off all over his stomach and shit. Which is, you know, that's a rookie move. Is Kirk still doing that, you know, when he's like almost 50? Is Kirk Minahan like blowing it all over his stomach and then, like, I don't know, picking at it? He'll probably try to deny it, of course, but I'm on to you, Kirk, and your weird jerk-off sessions. So now we get to fight night itself. Kirk Don King Minahan. The show opens up, which I was surprised because this is my first time I ever watched the Rough and Rowdy. Big Cat just absolutely killing it singing the national anthem. That was very impressive. In a typical Barstool fashion, no teleprompter. Someone went to the arts and crafts store and got a poster board, you know, like an 8-year-old with Sharpie or something, wrote out the words to the song, and that was how Big Cat sang the national anthem. But he did a really good job. He had really good commentary. He was funny. Dave Portnoy was good on it too. He was really funny. I was really impressed with how they handle it. And of course, like, the first fight of the night, fight opens, the two guys come out, they're going at it, and some guy gets clocked right in the jaw. He's unconscious on his feet, eyes are open, fucking guy bounces off the ground, and that's what wakes him up. Then there was another fight where, you know, guys were pushing each other over the ropes and all this stuff. It was wild. One thing, and we'll talk about this in a minute, is I was surprised at how much the rules set was different from the boxing that I'm used to watching. There was a couple fighters that had, you could tell they were skilled, and the referee wasn't letting them get away with that type of head grabbing bullshit. When it was amateur fighters, like the main event between Cupcake and Alex Bennett, they were kind of letting anything go, which I was a little surprised about. But like I said, it was my first Rough and Rowdy, And from what Cupcake and her team said, it might have been their first time viewing a Rough and Rowdy too, but more on that later. So Kirk eventually goes up to do some commentary. Again, I know it's gonna seem like I'm just kissing his ass, but no matter what he does, he's great at. Of course, whether it was coincidence, which I don't think so, but they have him on. There was a transgender woman fighting a man, and Kirk was doing commentary for that fight. There was a really funny moment. I tried finding the clip, but you only get Rough and Rowdy for 48 hours after you purchase it, which kind of sucks. But there was a good moment when Dave was, he asked Kirk a question, and then Kirk kind of flipped it right back to him, like a transgender question. And Portnoy, the camera cuts to Portnoy's face, and he's like shocked, like he doesn't know what the fuck to say. And Kirk's just waiting, you know, Kirk's doing his thing like he's waiting for an answer from Portnoy. And, you know, Portnoy didn't know what to say. It was really funny, you know, typical Kirk, really just taking over the show. You know, it was a good moment. So that brings us to the main event. Cupcake versus Alex $1 Million A.B. Bennett. Terrible ring name. Alex, you got to do something like Alex the Snake Bennett, like, would be perfect, I think, for you. Cupcake comes out first. Cupcake looked mean. She looked focused. She looked composed. Alex Bennett looked the complete opposite. She looked nervous. She looked jittery. Her movements weren't smooth. But that doesn't mean shit. Like, when you're all that pre-fight stuff, all the talk, when that bell rings, all that shit goes out the window. All the jitters, and it's whoever shows up, you know, in that fight. And Cupcake just did not show up at all. Kirk was right. Hashtag Kirk was right. Cupcake didn't get pounded, but she got dominated. I don't think there was one clean, hard strike in the whole fight. I mean, Cupcake's face was a little messed up, but that's gonna happen, especially if you've never fought before. I mean, some professional fighters, their faces get fucked up and they barely get touched. So that doesn't really mean anything. I get what she's saying about Cupcake, what she was saying about Alex Bennett holding her head, but it's like, it's fucking Rough and Rowdy. You have to do your research. It looked to me like Cupcake, I don't even know if she sparred. I don't know if she ever sparred. It was clear to me, no matter what her coaching staff says, that she did not know what she was in for with Rough and Rowdy, with the rule set. Whereas it looked to me like Alex Bennett, like that was her goal, where she was gonna grab the back of the head and just pound you in the fucking face. And it worked, so credit to her. She's a snake, but she went in there and she got it done. And I think for the most part, she actually handled herself after the fight pretty well. Her friends, on the other hand, Jesus Christ. You know, one of the things I was disappointed about Alex with was the fact that literally as she's walking out to the fight, you have the commentator saying she doesn't have a chance, that she's gonna lose. Every single person was picking her to lose, and she won. And when she won, everyone was like, oh my God, we believe in you, you're so great, da 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 da. If Alex Bennett, maybe she doesn't know, but if she does, it's like, grow a fucking backbone and call these fucking people out. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then her friends, I mean, I watched some of the after the fight stuff when they were celebrating, and good for her, she deserves to celebrate. That's a scary thing, getting in there with somebody. Regardless if it's someone like Cupcake or not, you could get knocked out in the fucking ring in front of everybody. Her friends, most of them got it, but a couple of them after the fight, it's almost like they all suffer from the Brandon Walker thing, where Kirk always tells people it's a show. You know, it's Kirk's, when he does something, it's not fake, it's real. He really feels that way and he really says what's on his mind, but it's still a show. And that's the only way to describe it. When Brandon Walker hears that, he thinks it's fake. He thinks scripted, he thinks WWE. And like, what's her name? Kelly Keegs, oh my God. The most annoying fucking person you'll ever meet. No talent. You know, the only reason she's on there is because, you know, let's face it, you guys know why. It's just a good thing that you can't catch chlamydia from like watching abroad on a computer monitor, because that, you can just tell she is a walking STD, a no talent walking chlamydia. Kelly Keegs, like, get a fucking sense of humor, seriously. Speaking of no sense of humor, big KFC, of course. You know, after Alex won, he joined the victory lap for Cupcake. He was taking shots at Kirk, which is fine. I like KFC. I think he's good at what he does. I think he's talented. He's a handsome fella. He's probably rich, I would imagine. You know, he probably makes more money than Kirk. He probably gets more downloads than Kirk. But I would argue that if KFC ever, you know, tried to do a live show, and maybe he has, and I'm dead wrong, I haven't looked into it, but does anyone really think like KFC could have a live show in South Dakota and sell out? I don't think so. And I know that's not like the measure of success, but when you look at someone's impact and their reach that they can have, Kirk Minahan's much more a draw to selling something like that pay-per-view than KFC ever would. I mean, KFC couldn't sell shit. I heard, and I don't know if this is true, but I heard that when he gave his side chick herpes, he couldn't even sell that to her. So, again, I don't know if that's true, but he's a pretty shitty salesman. Enough about Father of the Year. Let's move on to his arch nemesis, a Mr. Blind Mike. Now, I'm doing a wrap-up show here, and obviously I got to consume all the KMS content, but I could not sift through that war between Blind Mike and KFC from a few days ago. It was the most unfunny, boring fucking thing, worse than this show. The Nikki Glazer line by Blind Mike was pretty good, though. That was pretty funny. But I think for Mike, I don't know if he was joking. Are you really on vacation with your family fucking fighting with people on Twitter? Jesus Christ. Fucking Bigfoot needs to take your phone away, dude. Kirk in the locker room with the parents. That must have been a funny-ass sight, man. Poor Kirk. Probably not the best guy in those moments. Just picture him patting her on the back and giving her the old punch in the shoulder, and picture her bawling her eyes out, mom and dad bawling their eyes out. You know, she's bitching about getting robbed, and all Kirk keeps thinking about is, man, I just want to watch some fucking Shark Tank. Let me get the hell out of here. It's too bad there wasn't a camera in that locker room. That must have been great. Guys on Monday's show, they did a bit about Santa's Village, and Dave Cullinane starts off the bit with, I thought Santa's Village was for poor people, which, you know, says a lot about Dave Cullinane. The guys compared it to Disney, which if you've never been to Santa's Village, I would say gather a bunch of 8-year-olds that have been to both and ask them if they think it's like Disney, because it sure as hell ain't, you know. Nothing like seeing Santa Claus late July. Who wants to go to Disney when you can see the reindeers in August? The funny thing about that, and the reason I bring it up, is that bit like that whole sponsorship bit, that to me is why I love the show. People that don't watch the show, I know everyone watching this knows this, but people who don't watch the show think Kirk's always freaking out and yelling and screaming, and that's why we like him. What I like about Kirk is, my favorite Kirk moments is when he takes a bit like that, like Dave being sponsored by Santa's, whatever the fuck it's called, Village. He's just so good at doing stuff like that. And then he mentions something that I don't know a lot of you have ever heard about, Six Gun City. I haven't thought of that place in years. That was like he said, it was an old western town, and they'd have actors dressed up like cowboys, and you'd go there, and of course all the little boys were there. You'd be dressed up like a cowboy too, and they do like little shootouts in the street. Obviously it wouldn't exist today, but it was a really cool place that I hadn't thought about in 2 decades. So that was a blast from the past, Six Gun City. Then the guys talked about the Ringer a little bit. I was actually driving when I was listening to this. I started Googling some of these Ringer people's salaries. Dear God, these people have, they're not gonna have much more viewership than this video is gonna have. And these people are making millions of dollars. It is absolutely insane. And this isn't even like a political thing. You can be like CNN or Newsmax. You could be Odyssey or EEI or whatever the heck it's called now. And you don't really need to have a base of Tucker Carlson-like ratings. You don't need that base. You just need a small group of people that's gonna support your advertisers, and that's all you need. And you don't need fucking ratings. You could be, getting tripled or doubled by light rock listening stations in a popular sports radio market in Boston, and they just don't give a shit. And the Ringer is the same thing. It's not about eyeballs anymore. It's about a specific set of eyeballs from a specific set of people and a specific set of advertisers, and that's all you need. It's just weird to see. I never thought we'd ever get there where ratings don't matter. You know, you could be CNN and just have absolutely no ratings. You know, some YouTube videos, one YouTube video of, you know, Joe Rogan does more views than the 8 o'clock CNN news for a week. I mean, that's just crazy. But that's the world we live in today. That's why you get stuff like The Ringer that nobody pays attention to. Off the Pike. I'd like to fucking drive off the Pike after hearing how much you guys make. And then the guys talked a little bit about OnlyFans. I don't really know how I feel about that. Not that anyone gives a shit what I think. I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer. It seems like it's wrong, but it is a really weird situation to see someone just posting pictures of themselves, and the only reason they're famous is because they're at Barstool. If they weren't at Barstool, they wouldn't be the draw that they were. Kirk's exactly right. It's the feminism thing flipped on its head, but who gives a shit? The calls kind of sucked. The Best Batman, Sean Connery called. That was a good call. O.J. Simpson called. The Juice. Very risque humor from the Juice. You know, a lot of murder jokes from O.J. Simpson, which people might not think's okay, but I thought they were pretty funny. And then John Sterling and Susan Waldman called. Great to hear from them as always. Then the last thing the guys touched on right before the end of the show, which I'm not going to spend too much time on, Louis C.K. on Joe Rogan. It is interesting to hear them talk, like Blind Mike was saying, about all these sexual things. They're very on the nose with it. Really, really trying to joke about it but not joke about it. If you haven't checked it out though and you're interested, really watch it, because it is a fucking bizarre thing to watch Louis C.K. talking about, you know, sexual stuff after. Oh, I'm sorry. He didn't lock the door, Mike. He didn't get in front of it. You know, the women could leave whenever they wanted to. That's right. Sponsors for today's show, there was Milton's. Milton's, a store for men. They have locations in Chestnut Hill Square at Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. South Shore Plaza in Braintree, Massachusetts. New location at Burlington Mall in Burlington, Mass. And you can also order some stuff from them at miltons.com. The schedule release for this show. So obviously I'm trying to do something a little different. I'd like to give you guys something nice to look at besides my mug. I'll try to switch up the place where I do this to try and get a different background. The times where there's days off after the show, those obviously I'm not worried about getting to you guys before the next show. It's the Monday show that makes me a little nervous. The show drops at noon and it's a couple hours long. I listened to it. It took me like an hour and a half to get here today, so I might have to do them a little bit closer to home, or maybe I'll just recap Monday and Tuesday shows together. We'll just have to play it by ear, see how it works. Give me a follow on KMS Reloaded on Twitter. That way I'll let you guys know when the show's dropping. This is kind of a serious note, but this isn't a bit. You all know Greg Greg P is going to be on the show on Monday. And listen, all kidding aside, we all know that he's got severe alcohol issues. I wish him well, but if you're going to be in the area of the studio on Monday morning, just know there's going to be a dangerous man on the road. This man has killed people in a certain European country that'll be unnamed, but I think you guys can figure it out. And because he's such a massive celebrity over there, he's like, you know, he's bigger than Elvis for them. He's gotten away with literally murder. If you're gonna be in the Watertown area Monday morning, just please be safe and just stay the fuck out of Greg's way, because he's drinking and he's driving. So that's been it for KMS Reloaded. I hope you guys enjoyed it. May not seem like much, but I'm actually really proud of this. And I will see you guys next time. So take it easy.
No big deal. No hard feelings. Good luck.